All right. Well, that was quite a momentous following from what Keith said. I just want to highlight two things. One, GM is the largest automaker, and second, we're not giving up on EVs. Before I start, the other thing I wanted to highlight was, before I talk about cars and everything we're doing around vehicle to grid. Um, New York is where I got my energy roots. I was worked for Con Ed for over 2 decades and learned how to design, operate, and modernize one of the most complex electric distribution systems. So what I'm going to talk about today is really around our vehicle to grid technology. And I was going to go through my deck, and I was listening to the panel before us. It was phenomenal. So I'm going to switch it up a bit. And there's really only one slide that I'd like you to focus on as I talk. And so it's a lot to look at. But if you just bear with me, give me 6 minutes of your time, I'll walk you through what we are trying to do. So first of all, I want to thank you, Stelios, and morning, everybody. So when you look at the macro, trends shaping our industry today, it's clear that the conversation around electric vehicles has completely shifted. There's no question about it. For years, the industry has viewed electrification through the lens of tailpipe emissions and range. But if you're only looking at the vehicle through that lens, you're missing the entire horizon. The reality of 26 is that mobility and energy are no longer operating in a separate silo. They have converged into a single integrated ecosystem. And at General Motors, we don't view the EV simply as a clean alternate mode of transportation. We view it as a highly sophisticated mobile energy platform. And the core challenge that's facing our modern energy landscape isn't just about generating more electrons. It's about managing where those electrons go, where they're deployed, and how they can handle unprecedented demand growth. As we transition to a more dynamic, renewable or fossil fuel powered heavy power mix, the traditional centralized grid infrastructure is facing a massive test of capacity and flexibility. That is exactly where an electric vehicle enters the equation. By transforming the millions of batteries on our roads into a coordinated, dispatchable asset base, we're building a decentralized power network that can actively stabilize the grid, buffer peak demand, and inject resilience exactly where it's needed most. This isn't a concept of the next decade. It's an operational blueprint that we're executing right now at GM. The true leadership in this space requires proving that sustainability and massive corporate execution can coexist without compromising performance. Looking at the data from our latest climate disclosures, since 2018, we have successfully reduced our operational emissions footprint by 52%. This is by aggressively reducing our carbon intensity, even as we ramp our manufacturing capacity. Furthermore, we became the first major US automaker to match 100% of our electricity across the domestic manufacturing and corporate facilities entirely with renewable energy. And we are proving that scale and on the industrial footprint can be managed responsibly. And we are the number 2 largest EV seller in the country, and we are seeing increased EV sales despite federal policy changes. In fact, year over year, we have had 48% increase in our EV sales. And this brings us down to the core opportunity, that a vehicle as a distributed energy resource asset. And this is essentially what this graphic is about. Right now, we have nearly 250,000 bidirectional capable EVs on the US roads. And I'll go back to my original deck. I wanted to actually talk about this slide to just show you all where our EVs are. So we have by far the largest portfolio of EVs that is at every price point that is capable of powering your home and can power the grid. And moving forward, every single new EV that we are going to launch will feature this capability, whether it's the Chevy Equinox EV or the Cadillac Escalade IQ. By scaling this technology, we inject dynamic flexibility into what has historically been a highly inflexible electric distribution system. So for the customer, it means unmatched resilience. For the utility and the grid operators, it offers an unprecedented tool for peak shaving and localized grid balancing. And I just want to go back to one example. I mentioned to all of you, I started in my career at Con Ed, and my roots are in the city. And one of the biggest things that we used to always worry about was heat waves, right? We are designed for that 4 hours in the year. That is the highest, capacity period. And when we were out in the streets, especially in Manhattan, which is, predominantly underground distribution network. In fact, all of it is underground distribution network. Anytime you had an outage, it would take anywhere from minimally 8 to 10 hours to actually be able to restore. So what is the tool that Con Ed has at its disposal? It's to actually run temporary cables or deploy diesel generators and connect to the grid. Like, that's how we actually got power back. And so now imagine you have thousands of EVs that are parked in these garages that can become that power source. And this technology is here, right? It's not rocket science. This is not what we're talking about is out in the future. We're actually doing this here in California with PG&E. We have a project that by 2030 we're going to take 130,000 of GM EVs and make them operational within the San Francisco grid. In Michigan with DTE, we're running an active operational pilot to actually deploy vehicle-to-grid technology with our own employees. We have close to 30 employees who are actually actively deploying this technology. And our goal is to ensure that we can manage the entire energy journey from cell chemistry to a single mobile app interface in the customer's hand. Because what we can do and how we can bring this technology and drive confidence is really through the mobile interface. And we have this technology in customers' hands today. I think I lost the clicker somewhere. And I just want to show this quickly. This is the interface that our customers use in order to use their EV to power their home. It's seamless, it's simple, it's intuitive. And what it does for a customer is, and we have now hundreds of stories coming out of this, we've been in the market for about a year. In most cases, customers don't even know they had an outage. They actually get notified in the app that they had an outage because the system automatically switches over if your EV is plugged in. It's noiseless, it's simple, and it's convenient. And that's the technology that can enable us to have more flexibility on the grid. So with that, I just want to highlight one other aspect, that building this resilient grid cannot solely be done on residential aggregation. We recognize that, projecting the bulk power system against localized disruptions and massive industrialized spikes, and I won't name AI either and bore you with that. But the second pillar of our strategy is really about matching the right battery chemistries with the right application. And this is where GM is bringing its scale. We are, to solve this, we're partnering with Peak Energy to develop and deploy and build for purpose sodium-ion chemistry, specifically optimized for large grid-scale stationary storage. We're dedicating our battery labs to optimize alternate chemistries like sodium ion so we can deliver long-term chemical endurance that the grid needs without competing for critical minerals needed for vehicle production. Because today, all of that supply chain is monopolized by one part of the world. And we're changing that. So lastly, I just want to conclude with electrification is fundamentally bigger than any single vehicle product or manufacturing plant. It represents a paradigm shift in how we generate, store, and distribute electrons across the country. By combining residential vehicle-to-grid integration with aggressive alternate chemistries at grid-scale storage, we are addressing the immediate capacity and stability constraints facing our energy markets today while designing the architectural foundation for tomorrow. And to my utility partners, regulators, and energy leaders in the room, the technology is here, the hardware is on the road, the scale is real. We invite you to collaborate with us to build a more resilient and flexible and distributed energy future. And that's my short thought.